Hi there, this is Darren from SimNation. Few people have asked me to do a video around game planning for draft day sports, college football, and for pro football, by the way, 2024. This is one of those topics where I could probably talk for hours and spend a lot of time going through it. But what I want to really do is make this video a little bit quicker. Um, and kind of give you some basic tenets that most new coaches don't know, and some experienced coaches don't know either. But I think that if I look at the coaches who are having the most success, they're doing these things. So let me go ahead and share those. I have up in front of us Colorado. Colorado is my Zero to Hero team here on SNCFL. For those of you not familiar with the concept, Zero to Hero is a team that traditionally is pretty bad that I take at the beginning of the season flip and then only have 4 weeks of recruiting to get the players I want before the season starts. And generally, the measure of success is I get them in the top 20 and then into the playoffs. I'm not going to get Colorado in the playoffs because we already know who's in the playoffs. But they have a chance at a top 20. And generally, I use these tricks to help me be able to do well with them. So let's start with the basics. Um, so the first thing that is very, very important uh, that really good coaches understand is that it is important to have good coaches. The reason why is even if you're calling all the plays, your coach is still determining what plays get called on what downs. Now, you can negate that depending on the league if you only have a few plays and things like that, but the coach is still calling it ultimately. Um, so, what I advocate, or what I've seen most of the really good coaches, myself included, do is one, they make sure the offensive preference of at least one of the coaches matches the system that they're going to run. Two, they have someone who has more than three, up to five, in at least one person has an in coach offense, coach defense. If you are going to run a system other than what your coach has a preference for, you need to make sure that they have at least 3 to 5 in flexibility. There is a penalty that you will incur with coaches in the game if you are running a system different than what they prefer. Flexibility negates that penalty. Intelligence, leadership are probably the two big things for coaching other than the ability to coach offense or defense. I've talked about recruiting. That's a whole different video. I'm not going to address that today. But generally, with coaches, you want to have at least one coach that has a preference in the system you want to run. You want to make sure that you have at least one or maybe multiple coaches who are good at coaching either offense or defense. You want to make sure that you have people who have good leadership and good intelligence because that's going to ultimately determine how well the team performs. And then again, if you're going to run something other than the system that the coaches prefer, you need to really make sure that that person has flexibility. So Douglas Robertson, I hired him because of his ability to coach offense and defense. He's got good leadership. His intelligence isn't great, but it's good and serviceable. And for the most part, I don't care about flexibility because I'm running the system that he prefers. When we look at Danny Pierce, though, Danny Pierce is maybe not as good at coaching, but he's highly flexible. I'm not running the system he prefers, but that flexibility means I negate the penalty. I'm not even going to talk about the defensive coordinator because he just sucks. I'll talk about him a little bit later. The second thing that a lot of coaches that are successful at this game understand is you build your system around the players that you have, or you go out and recruit the players you need for your system. So if you're going to be a vertical passing system tending towards the long pass, you need to go get quarterbacks that have arm and intelligence. You need to get wide receivers that have speed and hands. Now, I would argue that you generally want to have wide receivers have some form of agility. Uh, a lot of times you're going to focus more on technique blocking when it comes to vertical passing attacks. So you're going to want guards, tackles, and centers that are really good at blocking and then have agility and intelligence. Um, so that would be the perfect vertical, right? So if it's vertical short, you want people with agility and hands and intelligence. If it's vertical long, you want people with speed, hands, and again, I would argue agility, but really speed, hands, and intelligence. Uh, if you're doing short passing verticals, you want line that are good at agility and intelligence and blocking. Those are going to be your three. Now, if you're going to do running, if you're running the ball a lot to the outside, speed matters more for the lineman than it does for agility. So you want speed and blocking ability, but if you're looking at running inside, you want agility and blocking ability. If you're looking at doing a power rushing attack, you want strength and blocking. And then, of course, running back wise, if you're doing power rushing, you want to do strength and hands and intelligence. I would argue intelligence, like speed, is a non negotiable. Uh, but if you are looking at doing inside running, you want agility and hands. And if you're looking at outside rushing, you want speed and hands. Again, I would say a lot of people deprioritize intelligence. I think that's a mistake because one, it means that they're not going to play their position optimally. They're not going to see holes. They're not going to see opportunities. They're not going to be able to guard. Now, skill always is secondary to the actual abilities. Uh, what I would tell you is with skill is you do want people to have high skill, especially when you're talking about like corners, safeties, linebackers, linemen. Those are guys that normally you want to have skill with, quarterbacks as well. But it's not an absolute deal breaker, except for maybe quarterback. I would argue that it is a deal breaker with quarterback. But if they don't have skill, what it's going to manifest into, they're going to miss tackles, miss blocks, miss holes. They're going to draw penalties, those type of things. And that generally is indicative of skill. Now, quarterbacks, I will say that I do believe that if you have the choice of skill versus not skilled, and all things are somewhat equal, choose skill over the one that doesn't. So, like Stapleton, in some regards, you could argue maybe the better quarterback is he's smarter, but his skill ended that statement, and that's why Mesa starts for Colorado. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, if you're trying to stop the run, you're going to prioritize agility and strength and tackling. If you're trying to stop the pass, depending on the pass, if it's short, you're going to try to prioritize agility and intelligence. If you're trying to stop the long, you're trying to prioritize speed and intelligence in the secondary. Depending on the type of rushing you're doing, that's going to determine whether you care about strength or whether you care about speed. So if you're speed rushing, traditionally you're going to speed rush against people who are strong but slow. Uh, you're going to prioritize speed and agility over strength. If you're trying to bull rush, which is your power rushing, and normally you do that against people who are weak but fast, you are going to prioritize agility and strength. I will tell you, I prefer to have linemen who have agility because I think that first step is important. So you see me a lot of times advocate for you to prioritize agility over almost any other trait when you're talking defensive alignment. If you have a slow linebacker, it's not the end of the world. A lot of slow linebackers are actually good tacklers or they have good agility. You're just going to put them on point of attack, which means that you're going to focus them with your playbook on rushing on attacking the rush or playing in a short zone. Again, in short zone, speed doesn't matter, agility does. So you just want to keep that focus. So hopefully that helps you there. Strategy wise, there's a lot of mistakes people make that cause them to lose. I'm going to focus on two, and then I'll talk about something else. So the first thing is if you're ever not sure of something, go to strategy help. I'm going to talk about distances in a moment. But basically run pass. The mistake most people make, and I've made this myself, is that the run pass rate is not a percentage. It's a weight. The higher the weight, the more times that you're going to pass, but it does not mean that that's going to be an absolute. So, for instance, you can set it to 100, but you're still going to run the ball, depending on the situation or depending on the coach's personality, right? If you set it to 1, you're still going to potentially pass the ball. And Washington State's an example. For a long period, it was 1 straight down the board, yet I'd still throw the ball 7 times in the game. But the bigger mistake, and this is probably the more harmful mistake that people make, is around blitz rate. So one of the things, and you need to read this because people miss this all the time. They set it to 100. They're like, I'm blitzing, but my corners are getting sacks. I'm getting burned constantly on these longer plays or these short passes, and I don't know what the hell is going on because I'm blitzing 100%. Why am I not getting sacks? Well, the problem is this. Um, when you set blitz to 100% or even the higher the number, right, more blitzing will occur. That higher the number, you're choosing from an internal blitzing playbook. You're not choosing who's actually blitzing. So a lot of people are like, I set my plays. Why isn't my linebacker blitzing? Why is my corner blitzing? Well, it's because you have it set at 100. What's happening is you have no control over who is blitzing at 100. The computer has complete control over who is blitzing at 100. So if you want to control who is blitzing, you need to set blitz rate to 0 or 1 or some low number, because what it means is the majority of the time the play that you are calling with the blitz that you want to have is what's being called at 0. So let me repeat that. If you set it to 0, you control who is blitzing. If you set it to 100, you have no control over who is blitzing. The computer does, because it's choosing from an internal blitzing playbook. Now, I don't personally like this, but I know why Brooks does it, and he's got a really good reason for it. And it makes complete sense the one time it was explained to me. But just bear in mind that blitzing at 100 means that whatever you're doing in your custom playbook doesn't matter from a blitz perspective. That's not what's happening in reality. What's happening in reality is it's choosing from an internal blitz playbook, and that person is blitzing, which is why you get the wilderness with corners getting a lot of sacks. So if you want to have control, put it at 0. Now, like in the case of Colorado, my defense sucks. Now they're better than they should be because they're 25th, 35th in the country. But one of the reasons why is I don't have a great defense. I'm okay with letting the CPU choose where to blitz because I don't want to focus on that. Now with Maryland, I absolutely will set this lower. I'll set it to 0 or 1 sometimes because I want to completely control who's blitzing and when. And the reason for that is if like I'm going up against Frankie and Frankie's running to the right a lot, by the way, he doesn't, I'm going to want to blitz from the left a lot because I need to stack that guy in the backfield so I can get more tackles for loss and stop his passing attack. If his offensive lineman on the right side is weak, I'm going to blitz a lot from the left because I'm going to try to use that to my advantage. So just keep that in the back of your mind when you're thinking about blitzing. The other key thing that a lot of coaches do is if you have a really good offensive coordinator or a really good coach, you don't need to set focus, passing preference, passing target, goal line back, running focus, running back, tight end role. You don't need to set that. Leave it as not set or none. Let your coach determine it. Now, conversely, if you have a really bad coach, you want to set it because you want that coach to be choosing plays that match what you want them to do. So, like when I played West Virginia, well, not West Virginia, when I played Baylor, uh, I didn't have much confidence in my coaching staff, so I set the focus, I set the passing preference. I wanted to go medium because I wanted the offensive coordinator to really call the plays that I wanted, which was a lot of medium passing because I was using a different playbook than normal. And I think I set the passing target to over the middle because I identified that I could have more success up the middle than I could on the outsides. But if you have a good coordinator, you don't need to set this. And in fact, you'll notice a lot of good coaches won't do it. Now, on defense, I have a horrible coach. There's no way I'm letting him call anything. So aggressive, so everyone understands the difference between conservative and aggressive. On offense, conservative means that you're more likely to punt, you're more likely to kick a field goal. And if your field goal is at the edge of the kicker's thing, they're going to punt. Aggressive means they're more likely to go for it. They're more likely to try to kick a field goal instead of punting. So just keeping that back in mind. And attitude on defense means they're going to go for interceptions. They're going to blitz aggressively. They're going to do a lot of aggressive things. Where conservative, they tend to play back. Now, aggressive's great when you need to offset talent. It's not as good when you don't have that. The other thing is if you're going against a team that passes a lot, you'll want to check this box because it ensures that you have the right number of cornerbacks. You don't want linebackers going against cornerback wide receivers all the time. One of the things I do that helps me here is long passing. Uh, if I want to negate a passing attack and I want to take away the long passing, I don't want them getting behind me. I'll set this as long, and it helps me, even if they're medium passing, to ensure that I'm not letting the long pass kill me. If someone's running outside a lot, do outside running. Otherwise, if you have a decent coordinator, just leave it checked. The last thing is people ask me how I do my playbook. So I do my playbook now because I know a lot of the plays. I know what works and what doesn't. But when I first started, what I did was I ran maybe the first 3 games with Andrew Correa. And then what I did is I exported his playbook. I imported it. I would do 3 playbooks. I had a balanced, I had a pass, I had a run. And what I did was I would look through the plays, and anything that's balanced should be 4 yards or less. Anything run should be 3 yards or less. Anything pass should be 5 yards or less. And what I just did is I would export it, import it, name it balanced, export, go back to Andrew Correa's defense, export it, import it, name it pass, do the same thing for run. And then I'll just go through the playbook and I'll just trim it down. And again, what I'm looking for is anything less than 4, because this is the balanced, and I'm looking for plays that are balanced. Anything, if this was the run playbook, I'd be looking for anything less than 3. So yeah, this one's going to get removed, and I would just go straight down and do that. Now I can't do that because this is the CPUs, but you can see this playbook. I've done this, right? And that just helped me to create the playbook that much easier. When we talk about offensive playbooks, let me see, because I'm trying to remember if I'm playing. I think I am, so I need to be careful with this. Like Hill, what I would be looking for is if it's a short pass, it should be it should be 3 yards or more. It really should be 4. If it is a medium pass, it should be 5 yards or more, really should be 6. And then if it's a long pass, it should be 7 yards or more, really should be 10. So this one's fine. This one needs to get removed. And then I would just go down the line and start removing things until I got that. So rushing attack, generally speaking, you always want it to be more than 3. Unless, of course, you're seeing a lot of touchdowns, which means they're running it in goal line stance, and that's pretty important. So that's just the basics of what a lot of coaches do. So one is get your staff aligned. Make sure you have a coach that has at least one coach that can coach offense or coach defense. Make sure that, well, let me rephrase that. Make sure you have at least one of your 3 coaches who's good at coaching offense and one of your 3 coaches who's good at coaching defense. Make sure they have leadership and make sure they have intelligence. If you're going to use a system other than what the coach prefers, make sure they have flexibility. Roster wise, just know what the different ratings are and know that if you're going with power, strength, and agility tend to matter more. If you're going for speed, then it's speed and really agility matter. But one of the things that a lot of people forget is, like, people ask me why I advocate for if you have a choice between a guy with 90 speed and a guy with 89 or 88 and he has 80 plus agility, whereas the other guy has like 60 agility, I'm going to choose the 80 guy every single time. Because when you recruit, you want to recruit people who give you the ability to be flexible. So like Maryland wins all of its games because Maryland has a lot of recruits who are very flexible, meaning that I could go long, I could go short, I could go medium, I can run outside, I can run inside. Now, my offensive line's not that flexible, so I can't really run inside because I don't recruit for strength. But it does, I'm sorry, I can't do a power rushing thing. I don't recruit for strength. But the point is you want to try to get as many flexible recruits as you can because it gives you more of an ability to change up your game plan, which when you go against humans is going to be very important. With play calling, just remember this is not a percentage. It is more of like a frequency weight where the higher you set it, the more likely it's going to come up as a pass. The lower you set it, more likely it's going to come up as a run. Uh, Blitz rate, just remember that if you set it 100, you have no control over where the blitz is coming from. Whereas if you set it to 0, you have complete control based on your playbook. Just bear in mind, conservative is they're going to punt more, kick field goals more. Aggressive means they're going to go for it more, kick field goals when you would normally punt. So CPU is not perfect. They're going to make mistakes. So hopefully this helps you. And then just remember the ranges with the playbook is if you're going for a balanced defensive approach, you want to be less than 4. If you're going for a balanced, if you're going for a rush defense, less than 3 uh, yards per play. And then if you're going for a pass, it's less than 5. On the offensive side of the ball, if you're going for short, it should be more than 4. If you're going for medium passing, it should be more than 7, or 6 or 7. And then if you're going for long, it should really be more than 8, but really should be more than 10. And then rushing should always be more than 3, unless again you're scoring a lot of touchdowns, and that tells you it's a goal line package. So hopefully you find this effect helpful. And if you have any specific questions, please let me know. Thanks. Bye.